Jeremy Osterberger with BIC Magazine. I have Rich Wells, VP Gulf Coast for operations and for Dow Chemical here in the Gulf Coast. Thank you, Rich, for joining us.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Rich, you covered a lot in your presentation here at the Gulf Coast Industry Forum. You talked a little bit about the Gulf Coast advantages for all this expansion. I wanted to get into Dow's investment, especially the Gulf Stream initiative. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Gulf Stream was a project that the company pulled together back at the early part of this decade, recognizing that the shale gas was a real phenomenon, and it really represented an advantage from a global perspective. We are a global industry, and we like to provide our products out of the Gulf Coast all around the world. And so we announced an investment program, and it ended up being $8 billion of investment. It was primarily in the olefins chain, ethylene and propylene, and then the derivatives, mostly polyethylene.
Okay, and there's some plans in the future for the Mosaic initiative. I want to tell us all you can on that and talk about the timeline of that project.
Sure, that's the second wave of investment. Yep. The initial, right now, it's set at $5 billion of investment. We're starting those investments right now as we speak, and then this will go through 2022 approximate time frame. Again, we're going to be investing in additional ethylene capacity. We're going to take ethylene cracker that we built in Freeport, Texas. Right. Expand it. We just started it up a year ago, and we're already expanding it. Wow! And when that expansion is finished next year, it will be the largest ethylene cracker in the world in terms of capacity. And then we're gonna put some more propylene capacity in place, and follow it up with some polyethylene capacity.
Can you give me some idea of the geographic investment for Mosaic? Is it at one or two sites, or what's the scope of where that project will take place?
Not all of those decisions have been made, but it'll be made in our sites either in Texas or Louisiana. It's going to depend on where the markets are, where the feedstocks are, and certainly things like what tax abatements we can get from the federal official or from the government officials.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, Rich, this Gulf Coast has so many advantages globally. You touched on some of those. Would you expand upon that a little bit more for our audience?
Well, sure. First off, it's the natural gas advantage. Our industry is founded on natural gas. It's not just a fuel for us. It's actually more of a feedstock for us. So it forms the backbones of the products that we make and end up eventually getting out into our consumers. And so you follow our industry through the years. We've always gone where the cheap feedstocks were at. That's why this industry really was big in the Gulf Coast when it was first started back in the 40s here, and we really built up. Kind of went into a lull when the natural gas price in the U.S. Got into the double-digit price range, but shale gas has given us that renaissance, and so certainly that's the impetus. But then when you come down here, there's the infrastructure that's been built, pipelines. The Gulf Coast, by its name, the coast, we're on the water.
That's right.
Not just the ocean-going vessels, but there's also the intercoastal waterway, which leads to the Mississippi, which leads to the Ohio, which allows us to barge our products, all the way up into the northeast part of the United States. And then, last but certainly not least, is the people.
Right.
High work ethic, proud, want to do a good job, easy to motivate and do what is necessary to produce those. Take all those advantages I just described and bring them together.
Ultimately, you have to have people to execute.
Yeah, they have to bring it together, absolutely.
So, Rich, of course, there's all these advantages, and we touched on that. There are hurdles and challenges.
Always.
You addressed some of those in your presentation. Would you talk a little bit about
that? Yeah, I think we can't put our head in the sand.
That's right.
And when people have an advantage, we have a history of overdoing it a bit, and then not recognizing we overdid it until it's too late. Okay. And I want to make sure that we don't do that here again. So, my concerns certainly are cost to build, and it's not just the actual price that we pay to get a plant built, but it's the quality of the product that we're getting. Any rework we have to do, that raises the price, and we're already seeing evidence that that's a problem for us. I'm always worried about regulations, particularly regulations that aren't based in science or based in emotion and incorrect news. We want our regulators to understand the science and the investment that we represent for the betterment of society. The chemical industry, really, when you look at all aspects of our society, makes life better, it makes life cleaner, it makes us more efficient, and to attack that is just the wrong thing to do. So those are things we're always worried about. In addition, skilled trades, we're seeing a shortage of skilled trades. We know what we need to do there, we just got to get motivated and get doing that.
Sure. Rich, we thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Thank
Thank you.
being with Big Magazine today. All right.